Busy Tuesday here on the 2 p.m. Sports Center.
Look, and it's St. Patrick's Day. Both of us, we both forgot to wear our green, but you're out there on the green. We'll get you ready for U.S. Venezuela in the World Baseball Classic. And Mel Kiper is here with his latest mock draft, and it's already been tweaked, Matt.
It's been tweaked because we start with breaking news in the NFL that happened within the last hour. Adam Schefter reporting that the Dolphins are trading receiver Jaylen Waddle to the Broncos. Miami gets Denver's first-round pick, 30th overall, along with the third and fourth-round picks. The Broncos also get a fourth-rounder from the Dolphins. Denver didn't make any free agent signings, but now make a big splash. Another quarterback is going to be Malik Willis, and Jaylen Waddle fills a major need for this Broncos offense. Since 2022, he ranks second in the NFL in yards per reception, behind only George Pickens at 15 yards per catch. He joins the Broncos wide receiver room that ranked 27th in the NFL last year at 11.7. So again, we mentioned Jeff Darlington as our NFL insider, joins us now. Denver didn't make any moves. Miami gets Malik Willis, and now we're starting all over in Denver with a, you'd think, #1 receiver. Why did Denver make this move to get Waddle?
Well, let's start with how they got here, Matt, because you're right. They're the only team remaining in the NFL who has not signed a free agent, and yet they come out with this explosive move today. Now, for the past 10 days since the scouting combine ended, I'm told that the Broncos have been in touch with the Dolphins trying to quietly make this happen. They believe that Waddle fits perfectly with what they're trying to do with Bo Nix. Don't think so much like Cortland Sutton, more like Troy Franklin. They have an arsenal of wide receivers now in Denver, but they believe Sutton has a certain skill set for touchdown making, but they believe that what Bo Nix needs is someone more like Waddle. So they were willing to go out and spend. And by the way, they also, while understanding the magnitude of giving up a first-round pick, it's at the end of the first round. The other picks also at the end of those rounds. So they feel like they got the type of value they wanted for a player who obviously could have a huge impact right away.
Yeah, that's right, because that first-round pick, that's always the shiny toy when you see one of these trades, right? You get into the first round, you get to have multiple first-round picks. From Miami's side, it's interesting. They bring in Malik Willis, hoping that another change of scenery makes him into a franchise quarterback. But now you get rid of a speedster in Waddle, who's only 27 years old. What do you think Miami's thinking in this deal was?
Well, this is just a tale of two teams in very different directions. The Broncos going out and being aggressive to try to get over that hump and get a Super Bowl championship like they just missed out on this past year. But meanwhile, the Dolphins, we've already seen their moves. This is a full rebuild in Miami. They understand the cap situation they're in. They understand the best way to add talent on the cheap is to do it through the draft, and so they will continue to stockpile draft picks. Of course, the one question here is Malik Willis. You sign him, but you now don't really have any receivers for him to throw to.
Right.
The one unexplainable situation in this equation. That being said, the Dolphins believe that if they can get Willis for what they did and continue to groom him, maybe they can draft some players and put some weapons around Willis for 2026.
And I'll tell you this, when a front office makes a move like this, they get rid of a veteran receiver to put all their stock in the draft. That then puts all the pressure on the front office. If you don't nail the draft with these draft picks to rebuild cheaply, then who knows how that works out for anybody there in Miami. Let's switch gears now. Hollywood Brown, one-year deal with the Eagles. We don't believe this is a bona fide one, but does this do anything with this A.J. Brown scenario we've been talking about all offseason?
It does not. I think these are mutually exclusive. That being said, A.J. Brown is still a situation to keep a very close eye on throughout the offseason. Doesn't mean that anything is imminent. The fact that they bring in another Brown in Hollywood Brown is simply continuing to try to add weapons to this offense. That being said, it's still important to treat these things as separate. Yes, they added Hollywood Brown. No, it doesn't mean they're going to get rid of A.J. Brown right now, but it certainly means it is still on the table for the rest of this offseason.
Yeah, the Hollywood version of Brown, not as good as the A.J. version of Brown. So we'll continue to watch this as it unfolds throughout the offseason. Jeff Darlington with the... In our breaking news out of the NFL today, Adam Schefter reported the Dolphins traded receiver Jaylen Waddle and a fourth-round pick to the Broncos for a first, third, and fourth-round picks. Miami now has the 11th and 30th selections in the first round next month. Denver has been silent in free agency, but this would qualify is a big splash. In fact, it was such a big splash, our Mel Kiper Jr., who puts out mock drafts leading up to the mock draft, had released it and then had to unmock it to remock it because of the trade. So, Mel, having said that, I just mentioned Miami. 11 and 30. How might they be using these picks in your latest mock?
Best laid plans, Matt, right? But in terms of the Miami Dolphins now, I think you look at where they can go at wide receiver. You lose Jaylen Waddle, you trade him away. How about Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State, had an unbelievable year in 2024 for the Sun Devils. That was Sam Levitt. It was 100%, and they were a great pass-catch tandem. Levitt to Tyson was. He had 75 catches that year, 15-yard average, and 10 touchdowns. Now, the durability concern is there. 3 different injuries, but this is a 6'2 1/4", 205-pounder who did 26 reps at the combine, so incredibly strong. He's a beast after the catch. If he didn't have the durability concern in those 3 injuries, Matt, he'd have been wide receiver 1 guaranteed and been maybe a top 5, top 6 pick in this draft. Probably would have been that high. Instead, he maybe drops down here where Miami can pick up Jordan Tyson. He's only 21 years of age and get another 21-year-old and Keldrick Falk, edge rusher, who you wish was a little more productive, but the talent's in abundance.
By the way, as for Jordan Tyson, his college receivers coach, Hines Ward, knows a thing or two about playing receiver in the NFL, so you know he comes with the bona fides to the next level. Let's go now to Jeremiah Love. We love the running back out of Notre Dame. You actually have him jumping now into the top 5, going 4th overall to Tennessee. Why the big jump for Jeremiah?
What do you think about Tennessee? There's a lot in free agency, right? They brought in a lot of different players, but the running back positioning that next year with Pollard you have, and you have Spears, but next year that'll change. So Jeremiah Love is more than a running back. Now, he's a great receiving entity. He's a home run. He's a touchdown waiting to happen. This guy's a game breaker. And when you have a Cam Ward developing into a franchise quarterback based on what he showed midseason on, Jeremiah Love, put him in that backfield. You can put him in the slot. You can put him wide. He is a dominant running back. This kid is a Bijan Robinson. He's a Jahmyr Gibbs, right? He's a Saquon Barkley. He's in that type of stratosphere in terms of running backs, and you get immediate production from these young backs that come right in as long as they can block, and he can, and he doesn't fumble the ball, Matt. He would be an outstanding pick, I think, for the Tennessee Titans and really help Cam Ward.
Yeah, for a while we thought Kansas City was going to be the landing spot. Of course, they addressed that with Kenneth Walker in free agency. So, look, you got to hit a home run if you're the Tennessee Titans. A lot of bunts last year out of them. You got to hit the big play. Mel Kiper always the big play. Mel, thank you.
Yep.
It's a New York State of NFL free agency, and our NFL draft analyst Field Yates joins me right now to take a bite out of the Big Apple's draft process. So the Jets, they have a lot of roster holes to address going into year 2 under Aaron Glenn. Fortunately, they've got 9 total picks to play with. What's their best approach going into round 1, though?
Amina, more so than any other team in the NFL, the Jets have the chance over the next 2 years to improve their roster through the NFL draft. Why? They've got 5 first-round picks between 2026 and 2027. That is the most in the NFL. Moreover, and I know that fans don't always love to hear this, people around the NFL, and I would put myself in this category as well, forecast a 2027 draft to potentially be one for the record books. It looks outstanding on paper, and not just at quarterback, but in other spots as well. So as far as the draft strategy this year next, if I'm the Jets, my focus is on premium positions and drafting for value. Don't draft for need. You've got too many of them, and you're not close enough to contending this year to be reaching for a player just because he helps fill a hole in your roster right now. I want players that impact the quarterback. Pass rushers, pass protectors, although they do have a good offensive line. Wide receivers and guys that can cover wide receivers. Those, to me, are the most notable positions for the Jets to attack between this year and next. Of course, quarterback also being in the mix if they love a player.
Let's go to the other team that plays inside of MetLife Stadium. The Giants select 5th overall in April's draft, the highest pick John Harbaugh has ever had as a head coach. How do you think he'll approach this process?
Well, the Giants have done some work this free agency to help fill some of the most notable gaps on this roster. So for the Giants, they have the opportunity to also go best player available, not just because of what they've done, but because John Harbaugh is calling the shots now. John Harbaugh is not worried about his job going forward. So if I am the New York Giants, there are a couple of names that you see on that best overall list right there that will be particularly intriguing if I am their GM, Joe Schoen. Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame, maybe he's a pipe dream to make it to number 5, but he is certainly a player that I would be considering at number 5, even with some of the Giants running backs on the roster right now. Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State, would also make some sense because while this team does have a pair of safeties that are penciled in as starters, Caleb Downs is the best safety in this draft and, to me, a very unique player. I think with John Harbaugh as your head coach, you're more likely to go meat and potatoes But this is a different draft than normal. This is not a typical draft that tends to offer a little bit more quarterback certainty and in some recent years, wide receiver certainty. That's not what the 2026 NFL draft is.
Let's get to the...
We're going to play a little game of a stock up, stock down NFL offseason edition. Which teams have made the right moves and which ones might be taking a step back? Now, the Miami Dolphins are the very latest team to make a big move, trading wide receiver Jaylen Waddle to the Denver Broncos. Here's a look at the trade details in case you missed it. In return, Miami will receive the 30th overall pick in this year's NFL draft, along with a 3rd and 4th round pick. The Fins will also send a 4th rounder to Denver with their star receiver, Jaylen Waddle. But why does our own John Breach have the Broncos stock down even after this signing? Let's ask the man as we say hello to our own John Breach. Explain yourself. The floor is yours, my friend.
Well, it's not because I was imbibing on too many St. Patrick's Day drinks. There is some logic here, Jordan. I think you have to go back and look at what the Denver Broncos did in free agency, which was absolutely nothing. They were the only team in the NFL that didn't go out and sign an external free agent. So they did not bring in any new players. That's a team that either you're content with your roster or you just got outbid for everyone you were trying to sign. Whatever the reason was, Denver just did not improve their roster. And it's not like they didn't have any needs. They lost John Franklin Myers on the defensive line, so they could have definitely stood to bring someone in there. They could have used some tight end help. And then, of course, they could have used some receiving help. Now, I think the Broncos woke up this week, looked at their roster, and they're like, okay, well, we got to do something. So they go out, they make this huge splash trade for Jaylen Waddle, which is good for them because they do need receiving help. You have Cortland Sutton now, you have Jaylen Waddle. But you look at what they gave up, this just feels like they overpaid because they got kind of desperate. They realized they need to bring in some weapons for Bo Nix. I mean, we're talking not just a 1st-round pick this year, but a 3rd-round pick and a 4th-round pick. I mean, A.J. Brown might go for 3 first-round picks if you're making deals like this. So I do think this was a good move in the sense that it helps their roster, but I think they overpaid. And if you combine that with the fact that they didn't sign anyone in free agency, I got the Broncos stock down after the first week of free agency.
Okay, so you like the deal. It'll work out. They get a need, but the details of the deal you're not too high on. Understood. Let's go ahead and see which team you have their stock rising. And next up, that's the Rams. They, of course, made the move for Trent McDuffie. Why do you see their stock rising, and how does he change the identity of this defense?
Well, I think when you look at the Rams, this was already a team that had one of the best rosters in the NFL. And so really all they needed to do was improve at the cornerback position. That was kind of their one hole. General manager Les Snead mentioned back in February that, hey, that's the spot we have to attack and we have to get better at. So what do? They go out and make this huge trade with the Chiefs. They give up 1 first-round pick, which in this sense makes a lot of sense because that's where you needed someone. They turn around and make Trent McDuffie the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. So now they have instantly upgraded at the position. And if they would have stopped there, I would have said, you know what? The Rams have had a great offseason so far, but they didn't. They went out and stole Kansas City's other starting cornerback and got Jaylen Watson. So now you have Watson and McDuffie. They re-signed Cam Curl, their safety. So now you have totally fortified that secondary into one of the better units in the NFC, if not the entire NFL. Then they made a bunch of other small moves. They re-signed Tyler Higbee. We saw the tight ends getting a lot of use last season. Sean McVay throwing 3 of them out there at one time with his 13 personnel. And the other thing I like about the Rams is that they had the best free agency out of any team in the NFC West. I mean, you look at the Seahawks. They lost several key players, Boye Mafe, Kenneth Walker, Kobe Bryant. You look at the Cardinals. They still have to figure out the QB position. Right now it's Gardner Minshew and Jacoby Brissett. And if you look at the 49ers, the highlight of their free agency was signing a 33-year-old wide receiver. So the Rams had the best free agency in the NFC West and possibly the entire NFL.
Let's get to the Steelers now, whose notable addition, of course, was to their backfield, Enrico Dowdle. Why is this a stock up for you, and just how much does he add to this offense?
Yeah, you look at the Steelers, it feels like people are kind of sleeping on them. This team just won the AFC North, and it really feels like they went into free agency thinking, how can we improve the offense so we can convince Aaron Rodgers to come back? Because that's the one thing they're waiting on is at quarterback. Well, they lost Kenneth Gainwell to the Buccaneers, so you need some running back help, and Rico Dowdle is that guy. The man is a human steamroller. He has gone over 1,000 yards in each of the past 2 seasons, did it with the Cowboys a couple years ago, did it with the Panthers last year, so he kind of takes some pressure off the quarterback, and that's what you want when you have an older guy, potentially have an older guy under center like Aaron Rodgers. And let's not forget, this team also went out and made a trade for Michael Pittman. They absolutely needed a number 2 receiver. That's another thing Rodgers will love if he comes back. They also love what they did in the secondary. They got one of the top free agent corners in Jamel Dean, and then added a couple safeties in Jaquan Brisker, Darnell Savage. So this roster looks a lot better, and they just came off an AFC North title.
Let's go ahead and end here with Jacksonville, a team who lost a few pretty big key pieces recently. Just how concerned are you about the direction they're headed, and just how far down is their stock for you?
Yeah, the Jags went way down. It's almost like they forgot free agency was happening. This team lost 3 starters during free agency. We're looking at Travis Etienne. That's not easy to replace. Devin Lloyd, Greg Newsome. Devin Lloyd was probably the biggest loss because they didn't really fill that hole. So now they have a huge need at linebacker. They did sign Chris Rodriguez, but he's never really been able to stay healthy for an entire season, so you don't know how much he's going to be able to replace Travis Etienne. They still need some help on the defensive line at safety. Almost every defensive position they could use some help, but Rodriguez was the only guy they went out and signed. And then you look around the AFC South, and it feels like every team got better. The Titans had $100 million in cap space. They spent it all. They signed some key free agents. The Texans made some nice moves. Reed Blankenship added him at safety. And then, of course, the Colts got Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce done. So it feels like everyone in the AFC South got slightly better, and Jacksonville just kind of stood put. And because of that, their stock's down for me.
Wouldn't want to be a Jags fan, that's for sure right now. John Breach, always great to see you, my friend, here live on CBS Sports HQ. He talked highly about the Rams really making some moves this free agency. We see them there. Odds makers are loving what they're seeing from Los Angeles because they have the shortest odds right now to win the Super Bowl at +700.